All right. Good evening, everybody. Just checking in first. Give me a thumbs up. Let me know you can hear me okay. And then I will be right back. Just give me a thumbs up and I'll be right back. Thank you. All right. Thank you for all the thumbs up. I appreciate it. All right. So good evening, everybody. Welcome to Intro to Buddhism and Meditation. We will go ahead and get started. If you can all join palms as we begin and repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. And keeping the palms joined. And putting the palms down. All right. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for being here. I always like to start with a question, just to, one, give some time for people to show up for the meditation, and two, just to have a little bit of communication with each other and just to share some thoughts. And I think my question, I'll keep it pretty general, pretty vague right now, but just what's I think sitting with me is my question really for you all is, um, what do you hope to get from this practice? That's a very broad question, and I can phrase it different ways. But what do you hope to get from it, or how do you hope it will impact your life? Maybe is a better way to phrase it. My master always talked about learning how to practice, and as I shared recently, that when I first arrived this was 16 years ago, but at the monastery in Taiwan, I was reminded by a nun, or not reminded, told by one of the nuns to remember my intention for showing up there and to never lose that intention. That no matter how many things shift and change, and no matter how many experiences I go through, good, bad, or otherwise, to never lose that original intention. The reason that I wanted to practice. So my question very simply right now is, what is it you hope to gain, or how do you hope this practice will benefit your life? I'm going to go ahead and type that in here. For me, I like that kind of phrase better. How do you imagine this practice will benefit your life? And I like looking at it this way because, um, you know, we can look at why we show up initially, but it's important to understand that this practice will continue to benefit your life in many different ways. So we can see how maybe it's had a short-term impact on our lives so far. If you've been around this for a little while, if you're brand new, then obviously this question is really important for you to ponder. But how do you imagine this practice will benefit life? It does tie into your intention and reason for practicing. That motivation that will keep you coming back to the cushion, as they say. It'll keep you coming back to meditation. It'll keep you coming back to a Zoom class for now, or when things are in person again, it'll keep you showing up. That intention is important. So if you are joining us for the first time, you'll see the chat box there. Go ahead and type in your responses, as short or long as you'd like. And just share whatever you feel. There's no wrong answers here. There's no right answers here. Anytime we really begin to explore this practice and how it impacts us, it's really just a sharing of thoughts and ideas. So how do you imagine this practice will benefit your life? Let's see, Amy, I'm here to change my mind, to train it. Yeah, definitely. And I think the training of the mind, if we think of anything that we train, it's a lifelong practice. You think of, a lot of us have maybe gone in and out, or sometimes more so than others, of, physically training our bodies as far as, exercise, things like that. And we know that the more regular, the more consistent we are, the better the results. And, if you fall away and you don't exercise for a year, well, you'll end up like many of us right now, actually. But you definitely feel the impact from that. So training the mind is the same thing, that if you don't train it for a year or 20 years, it can get quite messy. So it really is a dedicated practice. Samir, facilitation of unlearning many delusions, most importantly, the delusion of controlling everything and everyone. The root of my anxiety and anger. Yeah, that's important. Recognizing the amount of control we try to have over the world, and then how that effort or attempt to control things actually leads to your own anxiety and anger. So, which is actually quite interesting. You're trying to control other people, yet you're the one having anxiety and anger. So a good thing to unravel and try to move away from. Marisa, the ability to suffer less from life's inevitable struggles and to consistently be of benefit to others. Yeah, that's so true and so well said, that inevitable struggles. If you are brand new to Buddhism, well, this is kind of your wake-up call that your entire life is going to be filled with struggles, with challenges. The Buddha called it dukkha. Some are going to be more painful than others, but either way, these struggles, they are inevitable, and in most cases, many of them unavoidable. So how do we handle these situations? How do we emotionally, mentally, physically show up to be present with these situations? And in turn, how can we then also continue to work on being a benefit to others around us? So, Mario, not letting my worries define my day, week, month, year, life. Yeah, definitely. The worries can really just destroy us for sure. Katie, my desire is not only to incorporate more joy, wellness, and peace into my life, but that it becomes habitual and will only increase the ability for me to give back and practice compassion to others. Yeah, definitely. And in some ways similar to what Marisa was sharing is that we recognize that this is our journey to find the joy, wellness, peace within ourselves. And as it becomes more of a habitual pattern and regular way of being, then it becomes easier to be kinder and gentler to others. The happier we are, the easier it is to be happy towards others. So, um, always a practice. Christian, I'd like to train my mind and body to slow down. Yeah, wouldn't we all, right? I mean, that's the practice, sitting and breathing, allowing things to settle physically, mentally, and then, of course, emotionally. So, Brian and Linda help me accept things the way they are instead of the way I want them to be. Yeah, also similar to what Samir and Marisa and really everybody's talking about is learning to embrace present moment. The interesting thing is when things are going wonderful in our lives and we have a great day or we get good news and everything works out well, we don't typically have a problem staying present with that. We enjoy it, we embrace it, we share it, we tell people about it, and we want to be with it. And then when the opposite happens, it's difficult to be with. So learning to be with things as they are is a big part of the practice. Katie, also, I desire to build a community of beings who lift me up, are like-minded in loving kindness, and inspire me to be better. Go Team DBT. Yeah, I mean, that's, I think when I look back on, starting the Dharma Bum Temple and, from the beginning back in '06, and, we wanted to just create a community of people that were learning to be kind. And I think that's a beautiful place to be, and recognizing that when you work on building a community of people who are trying to be kind, that means the people that show up are often not kind. And that might sound a little harsh, but bear with me for a minute, right? For myself, I'll use me as an example as someone who was a very unkind person. Well, when I got to the Buddhist temple and I started practicing, just because I was there for 2 years didn't automatically mean that I was a kind person, right? I was a person showing up with lots of anger, lots of hatred, lots of resentments, and was really unkind. And I put on a happy face. This is going back to 2003, and had the intention and aspiration to be kind, but I wasn't there yet. So again, what that means is we bring together a group of people that is really aware of their unkindness and is working on it. So that's where the inspiration, as you say, comes in. So beautiful. Lisa, more kindness, compassion, and patience. Definitely. That sums it up. If we can just be kind, compassionate, and patient, we're good. Is it Raisa? Raisa? I like pronouncing names properly. Explore Buddhism. Yeah, great. It's a great thing to explore. And if you read or listen to everything that was just shared above, I think that's kind of some of the things you'll learn along the way. So, and if you want to help me out, just let me know if it's Raisa or Raisa, or if I'm wrong on both of those, I do apologize. All right, so we'll start with the meditation practice. A couple things I'll tell you before I begin. Nothing's going to happen to you, right? You're not going to float away. You won't have any mystical, magical experiences. You're not going to figure anything out whatsoever. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? We're doing it right or wrong. We're just going to sit and breathe. You'll hear sounds inside, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos, and the practice of meditation is learning to get quiet and still within all of that chaos. So posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you're on a cushion or chair, just slide into the front third, pushing yourself up, allowing the shoulders to relax. The hands will be on the knees or in the lap, whatever's comfortable. I will guide us as we begin. We will settle into a little bit of silence. And most important is don't expect anything from this practice. We're just going to sit and we're going to breathe. And starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open, mouth open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths slowly. And eventually settle into a natural rhythm of the breath, noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. We'll start with gently guiding the attention and focus to the stomach or chest, breathing in, feel them rise, breathing out, they fall. Simply continuing this practice, observing sensation of breath. And as the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it, release that thought, return attention, focus to the breath. Where's your mind? Lost in thought? Return to breath. Letting go of expectations. Letting go of judgments from the practice. Just sitting. Breathing. Keeping the mind alert, aware of each sound, each, each physical sensation, yet concerned with nothing but sitting, breathing. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle, know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. No one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. Once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And as you slowly open the eyes, slowly begin to move. And most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize every feel quiet, calm, and still, or mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment. With anything I said, it's nothing to do with how you sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's not from the sound of us or anything else for that matter. It has everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being no different than any one of us who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means very simply for all of us, regardless of where we come from or what we believe in and where you think you're going, your entire life is filled with things that happen and you react. More stuff happens, more reactions. That's it. All we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. It's not an easy practice. It's not necessarily fun. But meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. Sitting, breathing, becoming aware of what you think, say, and do. And that's it. I try not to complicate this practice too much. Just learning to sit and be present with things as they are. Thoughts arise, and they pass. Thoughts arise, they pass. That's it. So what I'd like to do now is open up to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with. And if you are joining us for the first time, again, welcome. There's a chat box there on your screen somewhere. So feel free to type in any questions or thoughts. There's no right or wrong questions or good or bad questions, just whatever you're sitting with. And I always prefer to use the rest of the time this evening to respond to what's on your mind. So thoughts, questions, comments, and we'll go from there. Well, it's great. A whole group of you, and finally, no questions. Oh, Katie, you ruined it. With an orange chair, wasn't sure if you had discussed. Yeah, I'm not really. Well, let me just answer the question directly. I would imagine the Dharma Bum Temple will open this year, yes. But I'm not putting a timeline on it. We discuss it constantly. And when we feel it's safe to bring people together, we will. What I was starting to say is, when we were in the purple tier, it's not even legal to be open. You go to the red tier and they're telling you can have 25% of people inside. And to me, that's still not safe. And, now that we're down into lower tiers, and even as they talk about mid-June tiers going away, I've never really looked at this from a tier perspective other than from a legal liability standpoint. Obviously, the tier we were in made it illegal to gather, and so I wasn't going to touch that. But I'm really not looking at it on what the the tiers are. We look at it as knowing that we have a lot of people who are high risk in our community, and the longer we wait, the more time will pass for people to be vaccinated, and the lower the chance of people getting sick will be. So, like I said, at this moment, I would like to say yes, absolutely, we'll open this year. I'd love to see us open, a few months from now, but we don't know yet. So we're just waiting. Last night I did the history of the Dharma Bum Temple to the college group, and I talked about the current situation with Temple and the college group being on Zoom. And after a year, the whole world is tired of Zoom. I'm tired of YouTube. Yes, it has its advantages, but the world wants to meet in person. But we need to make sure, obviously, that it's safe. So, and we don't want to get into a situation to where, even when it was, at 25%, or, now even at 50%, I don't want to get into a situation where we're having like a sign up sheet and we're screening people at the door and we're turning people away. I just don't like that. And, the Dharma Bum Temple has always been a place that everybody's welcome, regardless. And, as I always say, whatever race, gender identity, sexual orientation, ability, culture, religion, whatever you are, wherever you come from, whatever you believe in, show up with all your craziness, and you're welcome to sit. And I don't want to put an asterisk on there that says, but only half of you are allowed to come in. So we're just not ready yet, just to kind of expand on it a little bit. But yes, we look forward to it as well, Katie. And yeah, of course, we're all grateful to have this. And we all look forward to this being done. So thanks for asking. Isaac, hello, my brother. I've been struggling with self-esteem issues lately. Any advice? Well, if we were in person and it was the normal Isaac and Jeff relationship, I'd probably just completely shut you down right now and pick on you and tease you and make fun of you for something. But I've learned that jokes and those types of things don't carry as well over, the virtual world, especially when I can't even see you and all I see on the screen is me, which is also kind of weird. So I'll answer your question as if I have no idea who you are, and I'm just treating it like it's, anybody else asking the question. It's interesting that, and I don't know if you were on the last class or class before, but I saw something recently that I thought was really powerful for a lot of people dealing. The thing I saw, it was on Instagram, and it was around body image, and the way it was represented, which is interesting because I don't even remember exactly what it was, but I've kind of molded it into my own little way of talking about it. And I don't even remember who posted it, so I can't even give them credit. But it was talking about a body image, and there was a person looking in the mirror and saying that when they look in the mirror, they're not even seeing themselves. What they're actually seeing is everybody else, and in relationship or in comparison to themselves. So when we look in the mirror, we're actually thinking, okay, well, this is what everybody else looks like, and this is what I look like. And I don't like to look like this. I want to look like that. So we're constantly comparing ourselves. And this was in a body image, a physical way, but this could be mentally, this could be emotionally, right? Anything with self-esteem issues, physically, mentally, emotionally, has a lot to do with recognizing this illusion of self, and then thinking that self is not good enough for some reason. Now, if we don't have anything to compare ourselves to, then we would never think we weren't good enough, right? Even if we just are constantly comparing ourselves to ourselves, right? I guarantee that, well, My guess is, Isaac, you are a kinder, gentler person today than you were 6 months ago, a year ago, 5 years ago. And that as you continue to go through life and experience things and, learn about meditation, Buddhist practice, and things like that, that you're going to continue to cultivate kindness and compassion. You're going to continue to cultivate a view that begins to have such a grand appreciation for your life's experience that, it's that Suzuki quote where he says, "You're all perfect exactly how you are, and you all could use a little improvement." All right. So even if, again, coming back to the question of self-esteem issues, we're so, for some reason, actually not for some reason, but I know exactly why, but I'll touch on that in a minute, but we're so conditioned to think that we're not good enough. Our entire life, we've been told what we're doing is not good enough. And it's done in a way that isn't even meant to be offensive or harmful. It's done in a way that is presented as encouragement, right? And the example I give variations of, I just talked about last time, was that, when a child is born, right? You've got the little baby and they're laying there on their back, like, then some adult is thrilled when the baby can roll over. But that's not enough. Then after rolling over, the baby has to begin to crawl. And then we celebrate crawling. But we don't just stop there. We don't want, imagine if all of us humans were just crawling around our whole lives. Crawling's not enough. Then we want them to walk. Then when we're walking, we're like celebrating they can walk now. And then we want them to run. And then they go off to school. And nobody sends you off to school and says, I want you to get all C's and D's and just pass. Go get all A's. Nobody says stay in fourth grade forever. You got to get out of fourth grade, go to fifth grade. Everything is on this system that's telling you. And then we start to get older and we have all the marketing crap coming at us. And we have to look a certain way, and we have to wear certain clothes, and we have to live in certain neighborhoods, and we have to buy certain cars. How many billions and billions of dollars are spent telling you what to think and what you're supposed to look like and what you're supposed to eat and what you're supposed to wear? It's all a bunch of madness, right? It's just one big, and that's my one of my favorite Fight Club scenes is where he's talking about, he opens up the pamphlet in the back seat of when the plane crashes, and everybody's like exiting the plane through the escape route and going down the raft or going down the slide into the water, and everybody in the pictures, they're all like smiling, and he's talking about, like, if your plane crashed and you were using these slides to go into the water onto some raft, you're not going to be all smiling. But the world is set up wanting you to think and feel a certain way. That's why we're stuck. Now, once you understand why you're stuck, that doesn't mean that you can immediately pull yourself out of it. But you have to understand it's not your fault that you have self-esteem issues. I'll say that again. It's not your fault that you have self-esteem issues. It's everyone else's fault. So it starts there. It starts with not blaming yourself or being upset or embarrassed or ashamed. And I give you credit for asking the question, right? And I see Samir chimed in, he's been struggling with the same thing, right? It's embarrassing very often to even say I have self-esteem issues, right? So, congratulations to you for having the courage to even bring that up. That's, huge. Again, that might not be helping your self-esteem issue, but what I'm hoping you'll begin to see is that you have this view of yourself that you think is not good enough. And the people who really understand you will look at you and say, you're perfect how you are. And you could use a little improvement, just like all of us. So I guess those are just some thoughts. I think when you look, I'll add this on as well to kind of put a very like Buddhist kind of teaching slant to this. Um, the teaching on non-self is really important here because without a permanent self, there's that like that expression that says, if there is no self, then who is it that's suffering? So if there is no self, if there is no Isaac, then how could there be any esteem issues? And what that teaching really is for me is kind of everything I was just talking about, is that all of those things that we're being pulled into, I'm not this enough, I'm not that enough, I don't have this, I don't have that, this person have this, I want to, all those things, those stories that we are comparing ourselves to, that's creating what we think is ourself. And you're saying, I am Isaac, and I, look like this, and I wear these clothes, and I go to this school, and I have these friends. These are the stories that are creating this sense of self. And then you're saying that self is not good enough. And that's the self-esteem issue. Well, there is no Isaac. You're just a consciousness floating through this physical body, having incredible experiences. That's it. Right? So the practice of non-self, the exploration of non-self teachings, and pulling away from the stories that you're telling yourself will help cut into some of the self-esteem issues that you're having. So hope that's helpful. Samir, what do Buddhist teachings say about consistency and diligence? Well, this is an easy one. It's one of my favorite teachings because it was the last thing the Buddha said. And I always think like, okay, if you've got this totally wise friend and he's about to die and he's going to leave you with incredible wisdom, what's the last thing he's going to say? And it's funny, it's probably been 20 plus years since I've read it, and I don't even remember so much of it, but I remember reading Tuesdays with Morrie, Mitch Albom. Incredible book, life-changing book. If you haven't read it, please read it. Tuesdays with Morrie. And it's like, what's he going to show up and teach on the last Tuesday? So when the Buddha was about to die, and he knew it was his time, and they were so concerned about who was going to teach them now, he said, I've been teaching you for 45 years. I've left you all the teachings. Be a light unto yourself and strive on with diligence. It's the last thing he said before he died. Be diligent. Consistency is important. I think consistency is what creates habitual patterns and behaviors, kind and compassionate actions. The consistency helps. So diligence is critical, but diligence with right intention. It's like Karma-Lekshe Soma, the great teacher, Tibetan Buddhist nun. Years ago, I was with her doing a talk, and she was talking about how the word mindfulness, a lot of the kind of hardcore traditional Buddhists don't love the modern kind of Western spin on the word mindfulness. And she said that you could mindfully rob a bank, right? So there's lots of mindful things you can do that cause harm. Just like diligence, there's lots of diligent things you can do. You can work really hard at something that's not beneficial for you or others. So diligence is incredibly important, but with right intention, also important. So, all right. Christian, what are some methods to not instinctually overact emotionally? Let me see here. Samir, Isaac, thank you. Okay, Isaac, thanks. Jeff, brother, needed to hear that. Samir, glad to hear I'm not the only one. Yep, beautiful. Um, so, Christian, first I want us to explore, and I think I'll close with this. The way you asked the question as far as instinctually overact emotionally. Kind of taking the word instinctually aside and just recognizing that we overreact emotionally a lot. And I'll start by saying I wish that there was a quick way to fix that. And in some ways there is, and in some ways it's not quick. So let me really just make it clear that this is going to take time. Right? If you've been overreacting emotionally for 30 years, it's going to take more than 3 weeks to cut through that, right? But a metaphor I really like is, think of a pot of water and it's boiling, a hot stove. And if you take the water off the stove for 5 seconds and you put it back on the stove, the water will immediately return to boil. If you take the water off the stove for 5 minutes and then you put it back on the stove, it takes longer to boil. So we are the stove. And if you're someone who overreacts emotionally a lot, you are constantly on boil. And you have to learn to turn the stove off. And I find, most beneficial practice for turning the stove off is meditation. Now, like I said, it's not like you meditate once or for 3 weeks and all of a sudden everything's going to drastically change. It's a lifelong practice. But if you use meditation in small doses every day, and you take 3-5 minutes in the morning, you take 3-5 minutes in the afternoon, you take 3 to 5 minutes in the evening, that's turning the stove off. And do that diligently. And then 3 months from now, 3 years from now, you'll be much better than you are today. But the key here is the diligence, right? I mean, I've been at this so long because I'm almost afraid to stop. I mean, when I was young, so much anger, hatred, rage, constant as a teenager, always on boil. So I don't want to know what it's like if all of a sudden I just stopped practicing meditation. So you have to stay diligent with it. I'm not big on asking people's age and it's irrelevant, but, Christian, I don't know you. I don't think I do. I don't know if you're, 20 or 80, and it doesn't matter. Just recognize that it's going to take time. So however old you are, however long you've been doing this, just keep working at it. And you're just kind of shaving away at some of that anger, some of that ego, with the meditation practice. That's one. And the second thing I'll say is, with regards to not overreacting, is this is really simple to, I think, intellectually understand, very difficult to put into practice. Understand that anytime you're going to overreact emotionally, it's pretty much always because you don't like something. I mean, we don't overreact emotionally because we're thrilled with the way something turned out. We don't like the way something turned out. We don't like what someone said. We don't like what someone did. So this is the practice, again, of non-self, of recognizing that life isn't all about you. You are not the most important person in the universe, Christian. No offense. And whoever you are overreacting to, they have their own crazy life in their head, just like you do. So learn to have compassion and understanding for their suffering and what they're going through. And that will also help you not overreact so much. Because I'm sure you've done things that have harmed others, just like I have, just like we all have. So when someone does something that harms you and you want to overreact, remember, you've been that person. So hope that's helpful. Good thoughts from y'all, good questions. Yeah, so I'm going to close on that. We'll join palms. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to Alan during his time of rebirth, and to Marisa and her family as they suffer at this time. May they all be at peace and free from suffering. May we all be at peace and free from suffering. All right. Thanks all for being here. A couple of quick announcements before you head off. My name is Jeff. I'm a Dharma bum. We opened up 14 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those of us who lead, we're not monks or nuns. We're not teachers or gurus or masters. We're just practitioners. We're not looking for students. We just share our understanding of Buddhist teachings and hopefully make it makes sense to those who join us. So every night we have different classes going on. As we mentioned earlier, everything's been closed for 13, 14 months now. So we'll continue virtually for now. All our recovery classes, family classes, college group, Monday through Friday, if you want to start your day. Christian, I don't know what your schedule's like, but a great question, a great practice, 8 and 8:30 Monday through Friday morning, virtually. Just click on the website. You'll see the link there. You can sit silently for 25 minutes with the morning group. So always something happening. I don't think there's any announcements other than the newer things going on. The Homeless Hats Project, Sunday at 3 o'clock. You can join that. We're making beanies for those who live on the streets, warm hats. And also our Tonglen practice, Sunday nights at 7. It's a Tibetan Buddhist practice. All that's on the website. If you have anyone who's sick or you want to send some compassion towards, there's a little 30-second, take you 30 seconds to fill it out, and we'll put them in the prayers for Sunday night. Yeah, I think that's about it. So one last comment, just because I just want to be very clear, and I do appreciate the question, Katie. Just to clarify one thing that's popping in my head, I understand that there's talk of June 15th, state of California, all the tiers going away completely. And my point is just that, not just for you, Katie, but for everybody, because we're all wondering the same thing. When are we going to open? That just because if that happens, if numbers stay low and things still continue to improve and people are more and more vaccinated, just because that gets lifted potentially on June 15th doesn't necessarily mean on June 16th we're opening up. So we're still going to get a sense and a feel for the community that we've built and what we feel is safest and wisest on how to proceed. And when the time comes that we do open up, what does that mean? Do we roll things out slowly? We're not certain yet. So, but we definitely are exploring all of that. So, all right, I'll thank you all for being here. Please be safe, be well, stay home, wear a mask. Just because the vaccinations are open doesn't mean that the pandemic has stopped. It's still very live, very real. And we all need to be very safe and cautious. So wear a mask, stay home, wash your hands, and do all those things. The pandemic is not a joke, and it's not done. So thank you very much.